I think looking back, I would say we're all little Looney scared queers who did not really want to connect too much with other people, just in case they go again, and just in case you lose them again.
Hello, my name is Kay Anderson, and you are listening to Lost Spaces, the podcast that mourns the death of queer nightlife. Every episode, I talk to a different person about a venue from their past, the memories that they made when they were there, and the people that they used to know. So, we have done bars, we have done clubs, we've done bookshops and youth groups and websites, but in all of the time that we have been doing this show, we have never ever featured a queer share house, or more specifically, a queer squat. But all of that is about to change. In the early 2000s, today's guest, the German sex, lust, and flirt trainer, Joey Juschka, moved to London to help set up a queer squat. And if you've ever wondered about the how and the why of squatting, then I think you will learn a lot from this chat. But on top of that, and I think the thing that was most interesting for me here is that if you've ever shared a house with someone and you understand the strange dynamics that are constantly at play, then I think that a lot of what we talk about is going to resonate with you. Right, shall we get into it?
So before I came to London, there were a few people who I met in Switzerland. I met them in Switzerland because they were at a party in Hamburg. So I just thought about like, how did it happen that I ended up in London for a year? And I think it was because I went to a party in Hamburg, basically.
Okay, you went to a party in Hamburg, but the people you met there were from Switzerland.
Some of them,
Okay.
they were saying, come to Switzerland, it's summer, we have a house there that we squat for a month or two. There won't be any water in the house, there won't be electricity, but it's summer, you'll survive, it will be fun, you'll have a big queer space. So I was like, okay, sounds like a good summer, I'll go. So I went there for a month, and then, of course, it started to get autumn, and we were all thinking, what do we do? And one of the people who also came to Switzerland for this month was like, I live in London, and in London it's really easy to squat. The rules, the laws are totally easy. They're much different than in Germany. Why don't you come? And I think I was the first person to come. And then we had one or two more people who came and looked for houses in London. So we stayed at that person's place. She lived in London already, so in a squat there. But the idea was to establish a queer squat, not one of those typical straight, mostly masculine men squats with dudes getting drunk every night, you know, like the typical cliche picture of squats. And we wanted to be in a queer crowd, so there were a few of us looking for houses, hunting houses. Oh my God.
And then so, like, talk me through, like, what's the process of looking for a flat when you're planning to squat or a building?
Okay, so the first thing is I don't know how it is nowadays, but back then the law was that as soon as your lock is in it, it's your house, and then the landlord has to sue you out, go to court and kick you out. So of course nobody has to live there, it has to be empty, all that, but that was the law. So the main problem was to find a house and get into it.
And so how do you do that? Like, how do you find an empty house?
Well, you just roam the neighborhood of wherever you want to be, look at the houses, and for some you get a feeling right away that sort of seems empty. I don't know, there's never any trash outside. Like in London, they put the trash in big black bags. So if you never see any trash outside, nobody's putting trash outside, nobody lives there. Or you check the mail, how much mail there is in the mailbox. You go at nighttime to see if there's any light burnings. You do this for a few days. Maybe you go ask the neighbors, not too much, or maybe you go down to the corner store and, just talk about like, oh, what's this house down there doing? So basically you check up on it, you ring the bell, a very obvious thing to do. And then at some point you decide, I think it's empty, let's go in.
But so how many of the places that you were looking at turned out to have people in them?
I think just one or two. One or two where we're like...
Because I'm just trying to find out, when you were walking down a street and you're like, oh, that place looks empty. How often would it actually be empty?
I think 90% of the time, let's say.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I just need to get more observant then, maybe. Yeah, I never noticed this. Okay. And so then, what were you looking for in a property? What were the criteria?
Oh, the basic needs had to be met, because what also happened a lot with empty houses, that the owner would actually really totally destroy the apartment from the inside. Some places we entered, all the electricity sockets were ripped out, the toilet bowl was gone, all the faucets were gone. Even some of them had hardly any floor anymore. They ripped out floorboards, the doors, they removed the doors, everything, where you would just go and go I don't think we can live here. There's no water, no toilet, no electricity, nothing.
And so do they do that in order to prevent people from squatting?
Yeah, because then once you're inside, they have to take you to court.
Yeah.
So it's better for them not have you inside.
Oh, it just blows my mind, especially in a place like London where property is so hard to find, that they would rather that place be derelict and standing empty than to do something with it. So then how many places did you look at before you found the place?
I think we looked at 30, 40 places. We maybe entered 10 places.
Wow, okay.
Yeah.
And what's the most common way of getting in?
Over the roof, usually, because the windows and the doors are protected with the side taxing, where you would have to come with a big metal flex or something. So you need an opening either in the backyard or over the roof. If there's a roof window where they think okay, nobody will come over the roof, how would they access the roof?
Yeah.
And the place that we finally took as ours, we entered over the roof because the neighbor house was a squat too. And I think they took us off and were oh, this house is empty and nobody's been here for months and it's pretty safe. They won't kick you out right away. Try it, want to go over the roof.
And so were you part of the crew? I don't know why I said crew. Were you part of the group of people that first went into that space?
Yeah, of course I was.
So tell me about it. What was the feeling of coming in from the roof?
Very cautious, because you don't know what's going on there. You don't want to have any light shining to the outside. We're pretty sure there's nobody inside, but okay. Then you have this big space and you're like, oh my God, all the possibilities. It's going a bit mad.
Oh, yeah.
Also being sort of, what's the word in English? Finally found something that's not destroyed.
That relief.
That looks pretty cool. And that place was really big. It had 3 floors, and each floor had maybe about 60, 70 square meters.
Okay.
So the top floor was already made into rooms. So there were 5 rooms upstairs.
Wow.
In the middle floor, there was just one giant room and the bathroom. And the bottom floor, where you actually did the street level, that was ugly. It was also one giant room, but full of old furniture, of broken things. Also a few rats, which did not come up to the other floors, but... you don't want to hang out with them,
Yeah. And what's the process then? When you move in, how do you decide who gets what room? And is there arm wrestling involved?
There's arm wrestling involved. I don't know the process, because what happened is that I was okay, we found a place, we all agree, we move in here. Okay, I'm going to go back to Berlin, pick up a few really useful things and come back. And when I came back, all the rooms were taken except
no.
Yeah, it was really mean, except the smallest one. It was and I remember coming up there, people going yoo-hoo, we settled down and we I have a room for you. And they looked a bit guilty. I was like, something's up. What's up? And then showed me the room. And I was like, oh, come on. You got to be kidding. It's just a mattress on the floor. And I can walk past the mattress to the window.
Oh.
I can't put a desk in here, no chair. But it was as it was. You had to take it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was your plan in all of this? So it sounds as though you hadn't had plans beforehand to come to London, but the opportunity arose and so you took it.
Yeah.
What were you intending to do when you got here?
I think I was looking for a place to live, like a home or a family. Like from my personal history, I don't have a family anymore. Like my mother died when I was 4, my father when I was 17. So that was made me free in the choice of where do I live, but also like, home, family. I think I want one. Can I come live with you? Very easy.
And it's interesting that you say that about looking for family, looking for home, because sometimes when you're looking for that, you can want it too badly.
Did I want it badly? I think I was drifting in my life back then. I lived in different places. Like I was based in Berlin, and I think in 2002 I was still officially a student at Berlin. Might be. But of course I didn't live in Berlin, but I was still enrolled in university. And before that I just spent time in other countries. I don't know, just to see the world, but not really traveling. Just I picked one space, one spot, stayed there for 3 months or 6 months, however long the visum would allow me to stay. So I think I was looking for a place. I remember just before London and Switzerland, I was in Bangkok for, I think, maybe even 6 months altogether. And I left Bangkok because I didn't find a queer community. Like I was very much there, spending a lot of time on the streets, just taking in the culture, how life's different there, how a lot of things are happening on the streets, like people clipping their toenails on the bus, things like this. And you're like, that's weird, but okay, somehow I like it. But then at some point I was like, okay, I met a butch lesbian and her girlfriend, and we became friends and spent some time together, but that was it. And I was like, okay, I need my queer community. I need this knowledge that I'm not just lesbian or butch or queer or whatever by chance. I need people who are aware of this, who make a conscious choice to live that lifestyle.
Oh, can you unpack this for me a bit more? What do you mean?
Well, I wanted to go to places where it's normal to be queer. To be queer, yeah. And also talk about what it means to be queer. I couldn't do this in Bangkok. I didn't meet the right people. I would only be tourists, but they were tourists and not at home either somehow.
Yeah. But and so you mean people who are intentional in their queerness?
Yeah, people who choose to live this every day. And I think that was the special thing about this queer squad in London, because everyone was queer there 24/7. Even if they went out in their own little projects in the outside world, they were still, that was the basic. It wasn't just like, oh, I'm queer for the party. No, I'm queer for life.
Yeah.
And I make decisions based on this. And one of the common decisions was to live anti-capitalist without money by means of squatting, which is one choice of life. I think you can be queer with money too, but
yes, and it's increasingly vital. So these are my words, not your words, so correct me. But it sounds like you were moving around looking for your queer family. Did you find it in London?
I did, because I hadn't lived in a community like this before. Before in Berlin, when I was in Berlin, I was just with my best friend and sharing an apartment. And I remember sometimes there would other people be staying there. So sometimes there would be 4 or 5 people living in a 2-room apartment for a while. And I actually really enjoyed this flexibility that was needed. So if you have only 2 bedrooms and you have 4 people, it's like, how do you arrange yourself? Who's going to sleep where, with whom, and which bed?
You liked
I liked that. It was cool.
Why?
Because life was based on needs. So sometimes I would need or want to write at 2 in the night, and then I would go like, okay, where can I write? Okay, maybe I can write with my headphones on and listening to music. Nobody hears it. I'm being really quiet. And then I look over and I go like, oh, there's 2 people sleeping. That's so cute somehow. I really feel like I'm not alone.
Oh, interesting. So you weren't like, ugh, I wish they would leave because I need the bathroom.
No, somehow not. I think it has to do also with me personally. I get really calm if there's just somebody
In
around.
chaos.
Oh, exactly. When there's people there present doing their own thing, and we can coexist but still be part of the same space.
Oh, that's very different to me. I'm like, you're breathing too loud. Shut up.
Well, I'm sometimes like this too. I have both sides. I don't know. It was interesting. It was like now actually I live alone. I have my own apartment. It's really important to me to have that space and not take care if there's anybody in the other room. I have to be quiet or something. But back then, that wasn't really the question. I think the question was more like, I think we all accepted it. So this is how it is.
Yeah, let's just all muck in and do what we're doing.
Yeah.
So within share houses and within those kind of community spaces, it's common that people take on different roles within the house. So some people would have that more kind of paternal focus, some would be the bratty kid, and some would be the loner loser. What role did you take on?
I took the role of the sleepless person who would paint late at night. That was funny. Like, I don't know, like that one person who would always, whose role it was to go out and get stuff, organize stuff. She would come back with buckets full of paint. So I was like, great. Give it to me. I'm going to paint something tonight.
And what is it? It's like, so painting, was it painting like paintings or painting like walls?
Painting the house, like the walls, like my room, like this tiny, tiny room that I totally hated in the beginning. I painted all walls bright red, and I think that was the start. I was like, ooh, it's really cool. Tiny room, all red, shiny red, glossy red. And then I was like, oh, let's make the bathroom, let's also really small, let's make it bright pink. And then I was like, ooh, it needs a bit of, I don't know, a bit of metally, glittery here in the kitchen, maybe a little bit of black contrast. And so it just went. That was...
But so that doesn't really give me much information about your relationship with other people in the house.
I think looking back, I think we were all pretty loony. Like we did. No, it's true. We all went off on our own like little quirks and missions and solo trips, like me painting, or another person was being a bit of the DJ and the drag queen, and the party person would go out to party somewhere in different parts of London, come back, or there was one person in the house who at some point tried to talk to all of us and tell us, look, there's not much community here. We're not really talking to each other. Do you realize this? And I didn't at that time. And I didn't get it why she would actually leave the house soon after. She was like, I can't live like this. We're not really talking with each other. We are a community. We're doing things together. We're meeting and making a party, or we're meeting and inviting people. We're meeting and clearing up the downstairs space and to have workshops there, to invite people over for dinner, to make community events. But still, we're somehow we're not really talking to each other.
So did you agree or disagree with the woman who said that?
At that point, back then, I didn't know what she was talking about.
Okay.
So I think she was right. Like now looking back, I'm like, that's true. We did a lot of things together. We connected by doing, but not so much by talking things over.
Okay. So it wasn't the intentionality of like coming together and enjoying each other's company. You just happened to be together when you were working on another project. Is that what you mean?
Yeah. I think that's also a new idea. I think it's true. I think looking back, I would say we're all little loony, scared queers who did not really want to connect too much with other people, just in case they go again, and just in case you lose them again.
That's interesting. And would you consider yourself to be scared based on that definition you've just given?
Yeah, I still don't connect to many people a lot. Like, I do connect to some people, but I'm so insistent on my independence.
And why do you think that is?
Because people leave. This is my life experience. People die. People are gone suddenly. So I'm like, I don't know if you want you in my life because...
Yeah.
And if I want you in my life, then don't count on me too much. Don't get too dependent on me. That's also a part of it. Don't want people to depend on me, and I have to take care of them, which is also what happened when I was a kid.
But so where does that sit, and how does that sit alongside wanting a community?
It means that I do extreme shifts from being on my own, doing my stuff, and then taking a 180-degree turn and going like, okay, now I'm here. Can we do a community thing? It's not easy to handle, I think.
It's not easy for you to handle or for others?
For others. For me, it's pretty easy because I come and go as I please. So I had to learn to actually, I don't know, come to a birthday. If I said I would come, I'm still like, oh my God, rolling my eyes. And going like, I don't want to.
Oh, yeah, I get that. Birthday parties are the worst. And so then going back to this conversation with the person who moved into your house and then said, oh, there's not enough community here, I can't hack this, and then left. Is that what she was kind of picking up on, in that there was a conditionality to people contributing to the community, and it was, no one was all in?
Yeah, I think she expected more real friendship in certain... I mean, I think there's different ways to live friendships. Some of them are very practical, like action-oriented. And that doesn't mean that they're any less emotional or something.
Yeah.
But from people who need it more emotional and who need to be verbally assured, yes, we're having a friendship, and yes, we're talking about things, and blah, blah, blah. Where I'm like, oh my God, I can't do this. Let's just massage each other. That's proof enough. Can we just, stop talking and massage or something? But I think she had a point there, because looking back, we lived next to each other, but with each other because we lived together in a house. Somehow I think maybe a reason to have a house was also so we were forced to be together. In a weird psycho, turnaround way.
Expand on that.
Expand on that with a very good friend of mine, the one I lived in Berlin with, the two-people apartment. He's pretty similar to me in terms of not connecting, doing his own things, flattering off, not keeping dates and stuff. And at one point, I think either somebody from the outside or we ourselves asked each other, like, how do we even manage to spend time together and connect, and then we were like, I think it's because we live together, we run into each other every now and then. That's how we manage to be on the same schedule once in a while.
So there's less pressure to commit to intentionally planning and coming together. You just happen to come together. I get that. Yeah,
and I'm still very much in my life like this, that I'm a pretty bad person to make plans around. Like, you invite me to parties and then I don't feel like it in the evening. So I listen to what I feel more like. So
it's really interesting, isn't it? So I used to be much better with plans, but now plans make me a bit anxious. And it's not always the actual doing of the thing that I've agreed to do. It's the fact that I know it's in my calendar and I have to be there. But like, once I'm there and everything, it's fine. I don't have any issue with it, and I can go along, and even if I'm not in the mood, I can fake it. But there's something about knowing the day before, when I have to go to bed, knowing that I have this thing that I have to do tomorrow, that makes me really anxious.
I have the same, and by now I spread my to-dos out over a week. And I go, okay, at some point during this week I have to go to this bookshop, to this place, and okay, on Wednesday there's this party, it's only on Wednesday, okay, it's on the schedule. I don't know. I put it in my calendar. Maybe I'm the opposite then. I put it in my calendar to calm myself down. I won't forget the option. If on Wednesday I happen to open my calendar at the right time, I'm like, oh, there's this party. Totally forgot about it, so let's go.
We've gone off topic. Sorry.
We have.
That's my fault. So shall we go back to the house?
Yeah, let's.
So what else was happening there?
So what else? Did performances. We did a dinner where we invited the squatters, the non-queer squatters from, this area of London around us. That was quite an interesting dinner. I mean, okay. So how it went was like the squatters would invite each other once a week over for dinner into their squat. And when it was our turn, we were like, okay, let's make a queer dinner, a really, sort of kinky pervert dinner, but not tell them it beforehand. So I think that was a bit, nowadays, looking back, would be very non-consensual not to tell them what to expect. But then again, oh man, they got their dinner. So what we did, we all dressed up.
Well, how non-consensual? What? Like what?
well, they didn't. Well, I'll tell you what happened, and then you can.
Okay.
So we dressed up, each of us. To whatever we liked, like as a sex worker, as a full-on leather dyke, with going around the dinner area with a whip in our hand. One of us was completely wrapped in plastic foil, and we served the dinner in dog bowls. People didn't really know what to make of it. Was this like real food or dog food? And then we started climbing on the table and, whipping each other on the tables, a bit of kissing, having sex besides the table, and people had actually just come for dinner to eat. So it was basically putting them in this sort of weird, perv, madness, kinky, sexual party thing all of a sudden.
But like, when you say sex, do you mean sex? Or do you just mean like, oh, yeah, that's a bit wrong, yeah.
Yeah, I remember the person with the plastic wrap getting a blowjob on the side. Next to the table, things like this. And a few of the squatters were just so disgusted and left. It was just overload. I mean,
yeah.
They didn't know what to expect. They just thought they would get some food and not a sex party.
And then, so did the invites dry up from then on? Like, did you get invited to the following other places' dinners, or was that it? Blacklisted?
I don't remember, actually. I didn't really go so much to the other dinners. So more like once we had this downstairs room, it was all about getting people to come to us, like being lazy too and not having to drive across London to other places. Just like, ooh, we've got this cool place, come here. Yeah. We didn't have the basement for too long, though. I think just maybe 3 or 4 months. Because then we got our eviction note.
So what happened? So we've learned all about how to break into a property. Oh, and I should say for anyone listening, if you're in the UK and you are planning on squatting, the laws have changed significantly since this time. So tough luck. It's probably not going to be possible. But so we've learned about how to get into the property. What happens when you get the eviction notice? Like, how does it all work?
Well, you get the eviction note in the mail, I think. Well, it was there one day. Maybe they just stuck it to our door. And it said, okay, there's a court case. You're illegally here. The owner's taking you to court. This is the date. That was just a few weeks in the future. And you can come to court and defend your case. But usually it meant eviction note. And why would the court tell you you're there, you can stay because it was an illegal squat?
Yeah.
So from then on, we started looking for houses, some of us, and the other half prepared for the court case. And we actually went there and tried to make a case for us being more than just a squat, like being a social place. Like we took our flyers from the past events. We told them, look, we have a bike repair shop for free. We have a self-defense thing for free. We have performances. You can come and learn stuff. You can come and hang out. You can just come and crash here. You can get food, blah, 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 all this. So don't kick us out. But of course, the law was there illegally, and if the owner had been nice, we could have maybe stayed, but I think the owner wasn't even there. It was just a court case. And,
so talk me through then. Initially, when you found out you had this notice, what were your thoughts? How did you respond?
Yeah, like this. I mean, you heard my sigh. Yeah, there goes the dream. What do we do? Do we stay together? Do we find another place? But we liked that place because it had a lot of space. I mean, the usual London houses don't have like 5 bedrooms and 2 more floors to use however you want. And sort of at the same time, we also had a little internal breakup in the group. Like, how things come together from the outside and from the inside. And it was like some weird story I never got what actually happened because we didn't talk with each other so much. Just know that 2 of us decided not to talk to each other anymore.
Oh.
And I never figured out what actually was wrong because that one person refused to tell the other person what was wrong. And the other person was like, but you have to tell me so I know what's happening. And somehow they locked heads like this. And
you think that was because of the eviction or just aligned with the
No, I think aligned.
Okay.
Aligned.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so in preparing for this court case, were you hopeful or were you like, nah, I'm not really sure about this?
Not really sure. At the same time, I think it was, we had 1 month and we already split up. Like we knew, like this is the court case, this is the date. The next day, they're going to evict us, like kick us out. So we leave. We don't want them to come in and throw our stuff onto the street. So during the month before the court case, we sort of split up as a group already because there was no other place that could take us all. So I went with one person up the street, maybe half an hour by bike, and I remember going back and forth with the bike, bringing my stuff to the new place. And a few people, we really split up. I think 3 of us stayed in London, 4 or 5. One went back to France, one went back to Switzerland. It was already before the end.
And so how did you personally respond then? Like we've already talked about how you wanted that community feeling. So what did the end of that community mean?
Well, it meant not really giving up hope yet. Like I came back into the house after we were evicted. They changed the lock. Me and one person entered again. We did, but then the next day or just the day after, like not long after, there were some big guys knocking on the door and saying, like, look, we kicked you out by court. This time's not going to be that pretty.
Yeah.
I'm going to bring my big brother, my big brother, my big brother. So you better out here by tomorrow. Otherwise, we're going to kick you out. We're like, okay, let's go. So we left again, and then we decided, the few of us who were still sort of together in contact and going like, what do we do? Do we stay in London? Do we try again? We were like, okay, let's go to Berlin. You can't really squat there so much. The situation is totally different, but the city is good. So I went back to Berlin, and eventually we all ended up in Berlin sooner or later. But living in rented apartments because squatting is not really much of an option here.
So, from my experiences in living in shared houses, they are it's kind of like being in a relationship with a bunch of people, and there is a bit of a sadness to that ending, right? Did you feel that sadness or?
Yeah, because I lost friends. I had really good memories, and I was really happy to meet some of them later. When they came to Berlin, I was like, oh, it's you and you're at Berlin, or just hearing of people and hearing like, okay, that person is now living in France and doing this and changed her name and gender and this and that.
But it's not the same, is it? Because you have to plan to meet them. Ugh.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think it was such a clear cut too that from the outside, and also this inner breakup we had there, because we didn't really communicate so much. I keep repeating this, but I think it was bound to break up at some point. Anyway, I think that one person who left early was right, that we each lived our own lives, bound together by this house project, queer social project. And then once the frame was taken, okay, we had our own lives, so we lived our own lives. And then at some point, maybe we met each other again, but the frame was missing, the house was missing. And I think it was pretty clear that we wouldn't have the house or a house anymore. So we sucked it up and went back to our lives before is not the right thing to say, but just from the living situation, like, went back to living in apartments rather than in a house project.
Yeah. And what did that house mean to you?
Being unexpectedly accepted, and people really valuing what I am without knowing what I did for it. I think we each loved each other for doing what they were doing and bringing into the community, even if it was nobody really thought of bringing something into the community. Like, we just did it. And for me, it was like people loved when I painted, and I was like, oh, there's nothing special. It's just who I am, like what I do when I can't sleep. You really love it? That's great. When I came back from Berlin, in the very beginning, I brought a big bag of things, useful things, like mostly sex toys and ropes, but also a bit of cutlery and stuff.
Useful? That's useful.
Yeah, that's useful. And people would come like, okay, do you need a rope? Maybe ask Joey, probably show.
But wait, hang on. So I just need to get my head around this. You weren't sharing sex toys with everyone, were you? I mean, the rope, that's fine. I approve of that.
Well, you can clean. I mean, it was very...
Well, yeah, but I mean, still.
Okay, I think there were like some very private toys that were like mine. I'm like, nah, I'm not sharing this, but more like for privacy reasons, not for hygienic reasons, because you can clean and then you can sort of like... This is an okay thing. I'm not so attached to
it. Okay, sorry. This is not the point of your story. So you went and brought back some useful things.
Yeah, and this surprised me because I think it was one of the first times in my life where I was valued for what I was without doing something special. Like, I was a lot of times astonished that people would go like, oh, Joey knows how to do this. I was like, oh, people just being supporting of me and me being supportive of them. Like, I would be thrilled from my heart when the drag queen person would decide to be the DJ for the night. It was like, oh, that is so cool. Or the bike person would come with a bucket of hummus that she found somewhere in a dumpster. I'm like, oh my God, hummus for a week.
And you were in the Turkish part of town, so those buckets of hummus were massive.
They were massive. There was a hummus fabric down the street, not too far away. They had hummus and this, what's it called? This orangey fish thing.
Taramasalada? No.
Yeah, exactly. So those were a bit more sketchy to eat.
Yeah, I probably
But the hummus...
And are you still looking for community?
Oh, am I still looking for community? Yes and no.
Well, let's go back one step. Has your definition of community changed at all since then?
Oh, my definition of community would be that people don't lose themselves, do their own things, but share it without expecting the other person to give up their thing. I think the topic with giving up myself, or other people giving up themselves, and then have places where you can go. That would be single people now more like than queer houses or queer projects, but places or people where I can go and they come to me and we can just arrive there, say, here I am, this is my current state of emotions, of feeling sad, feeling angry, feeling really excited about something. Here I am, I'm going to share with you how I feel at the moment. And then the other people or a person more or more go like, welcome. This is what I think is community for me.
And is that evolved from where it was 20 years ago? Or is it largely the same?
It's a bit the same, but I wasn't aware of this. I just lived like this. And now I'm like, oh, okay, what are actually the points that I liked? What was important for me? And this freedom to come and go as you please, that's actually a big part of community for me, which sounds counterproductive, like counterintuitive. But for me, it's a big part of being part of a community to be allowed to leave, come back.
No, yeah, because it makes sense, because it's like It's what separates a community from a cult, right? That might be a bit extreme in the way of communicating it, but like there's no expectation of you. You just are welcome in that community.
Yeah. What's new, it's actually to watch out for each other a bit more, like to be more aware of each other. And I think that was what was missing back then. We did things together, but we weren't really aware of what was really going on with the person. Was he happy? Was she happy doing whatever they were doing apart from us? Didn't really know so much, just the facts, and what they did was totally okay, what I did was okay, but we didn't really open up emotionally. And I think that's different now.
So how do you do that?
To open up emotionally?
Yeah.
Well, it's funny to actually do what that person who left early did, to just voice and say, like, look, I feel like we're not connecting emotionally. Is this true?
But how do you look out for how other people are doing?
To actually remember dates, not in the sense of, oh, it's your birthday, you have to come, but to remember, oh, in this week, this friend has to go to a certain very official appointment and that's going to do her head in, and afterwards she needs care, and to call, like, okay, I keep that in mind. And I'm not probably going to call her on the very day, but maybe the day before I'm going to go, like, oh, yeah, remember, you've got this appointment, wishing you luck today. I mean, just have other people's issues in my head, in my awareness. And I think that's what I wasn't able to do back then.
Why were you not able to do it back then?
Because I was a scared little queer without a home, and I didn't know how to. I wasn't aware. Well, why weren't you aware? Because I wasn't aware. That's not a good answer, but.
Oh no, but I think it might be the answer. Did you not do it because you weren't aware, or because you were afraid of putting yourself out on the line?
I think because I wasn't aware, and also because I think I was a social loony. Like, I didn't really know how to do friendship. I didn't know how to do family. Like, like there were some things that were missing from my life before. Where I'm sometimes, even now, like 20 years or 40 years, something, going like, oh, this is how you make friends or have friends. You like things that I didn't grow up with, or with family, like how it goes to sit around a table and have a meal together.
Oh yeah, that's weird.
Okay, and then what do you do during the meal? You talk with each other. Oh, you sit till the end of the meal. You get up earlier. You don't get up earlier. It's really bad if I don't do the dishes. I like all these things I didn't know how to do. And translated into living together with a bunch of people. It was being very specific, but not because I didn't want to take care or want to, just because I didn't know how to. I didn't know it means, like, having a community life means maybe having a meal together and all the things that go with a meal, or like how to talk during dinner. Like, I'm still sometimes a bit like, what do you do in a group setting?
Oh yeah, no, I get that. Like that wanting to be around people, but not having enough practice in being around people.
Yeah, that's why I think it's so calming for me to just have people in the space, like this apartment situation what I talked about earlier, with like 4 or 5 people, two bedrooms, and people sleeping there. I was so calm because they were there, but I didn't have to interact with them in a way because they were sleeping and doing their own thing, but they were still there, so I could connect without having to do a certain way that I didn't learn.
And having to be exposed?
Yeah, I think so. And I think I went by a lot of times unnoticed, or I didn't realize that people noticed me.
Yeah, and that's really comforting, isn't it?
Yes, but also really lonely. And then at some point you realize, or I realized, like, oh, I do want to connect, and people look at me strangely because I don't know the social interaction thingy to do here. And that's why they leave the party looking at me strangely and don't want to party with me again, because I didn't do the saying goodbye thing or something, like, oh, wait, it's blah, don't kick me out because I don't know how to do social interactions. At some point it's like going like, oh, that makes me actually disconnected, losing company, losing friends maybe, just because I don't know certain social
The social
rules.
contract. Yeah. Well, so then that brings me back to the question I asked earlier. Are you still looking for community?
No, not so much. No, I answer no. It's interesting because now I found people in a network of, well, Looners as well, but where Looners?
Wait, is it lunar or loony? Or is it both?
Oh, I think Looney. Very special too, and they don't really follow the social rules and contract, and where you go like, you're really a weird man, but I love it. Be as weird as you want to be, because I can be as weird as I want to be, and I'm aware that you're weird. And I think that's the new point, that we know each other's weirdness instead of just going like, okay, I live on my own, and I sort of realize there's somebody next to me. We sort of happen to be in the same room.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's more, I have a lot of options. So instead of having just one house full of queers, I have many, many options to go to, people to call up, to go, to pass by, to ring the bell, places to go, to hang out. And I don't always get what I'm looking for in the moment. So I might go to a place, a bar, a party place, a club or something, and not have the meeting I was looking for, whatever way. But I feel like I have the choice of options.
And you have the resilience to know that just because it didn't happen today doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
Exactly. And I think maybe that was also why the community in London was somehow very close at the same time, and also very distant from each other, and split up without much afterwards, because the frame was taken, and because maybe the thing of living together, like at some point you don't have the choice to live together. Like you live together, it's not a free choice anymore. Do you want to see that person today? Don't you want to say you don't want to see that person? And there's only this one option: either you're in the house or you're not. Okay, maybe visitor, but so in a way it was also very restricting. I mean, free and restricting. So you could do your own thing.
And it was limiting because there were only so many places in the house.
Yeah.
And, you know, once you were in, you were in. You couldn't just opt out for a week and then come back. Lots to think about. So then you know already where my final question is going to take us. We're going to go very, very cheesy, very, very, very reflective. If you could go back in time 20 years and give some advice to Joey that had just broken into this house and had just started squatting there, what would you say?
Let's all cuddle together in a big, big bed instead of having single rooms.
Oh, no. Oh, that's a bit too far, Joey.
I would say don't be scared to really connect with people. Because they are gonna go at some point. That's life. People come, leave. So whilst they're there, connect as deeply as you can, or as you want.
So, do you have any memories about a queer space that you want to share? Well, if you do, please get in touch. I would love to hear from you. I want to create the biggest online record of people's memories and stories of queer spaces. Go to lostspacespodcast.com and find the section Share a Lost Space to tell me all about what it is you got up to. You can also find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, where my handle is Lost Spaces Pod. And for more information about Joey, make sure you visit their website, joeyjuschka.com. If you enjoyed this episode, I would really appreciate if you subscribed, left a review on your podcast platform, or just told someone else who you think might be interested in giving it a little listen too. My name is Kay Anderson, and you have been listening to Lost Spaces.